Ever felt like no matter how hard you try, you'll never be good enough for the one person you needed most? Harper Ellis was a Wall Street powerhouse by 32. The youngest senior investment strategist at a top-tier New York firm, she'd built her career from grit, late nights, and relentless ambition. But there was one place where her resume meant nothing: her father's dinner table in Austin, Texas. Gerald Ellis wasn't just any father. He was the kingmaker of Southern real estate, a man who turned dust into gold and expected his children to shine just as bright or be cast aside. And to him, Harper was the underachiever. Despite her UCLA full ride, her spotless record, her multi-million-dollar investment wins, he'd still ask, "Why can't you be more like Brandon?" her golden boy older brother. Every June, the Ellis family gathered at their sprawling ranch estate the weekend before Father's Day. For most, it was celebration. For Harper, it was a war zone in pearls. This year, Harper planned a strategic move. She bought her father a brand new Mercedes S-Class, black, custom-trimmed, loaded, not as a bribe, but a final peace offering, a chance to hear what she'd craved her entire life. "I'm proud of you." But what Harper didn't know was that inside her purse was an envelope, a DNA test. A truth that would rip apart decades of manipulation and expose a lie too big for even Gerald Ellis to bury. Every family has secrets, but when silence becomes survival, love turns into control. To the outside world, the Ellis family looked like Southern royalty, a 3-story red brick estate just west of Austin, monthly cocktail parties packed with real estate moguls and political figures, framed family portraits on imported marble walls. But behind the polished perfection was an invisible hierarchy, where affection was a currency and silence was the cost of survival. Harper, despite her Ivy League degree and Wall Street success, was the misfit. Her father, Gerald, never made it a secret. Brandon, the eldest, was the prototype. Golfed with him at age 10, attended the exact business school Gerald handpicked, now running the Houston branch of the family empire. When Brandon spoke, Gerald listened. When Harper spoke, Gerald checked his watch. Their mother, Diane, once a Southern pageant queen, had become a quiet ghost at family functions, always smiling, always saying, "Don't upset your father," a phrase Harper heard more often than, "I love you." Diane apologized often, but never intervened. Lily, the youngest, was the only one who ever slipped Harper a drink in the kitchen and whispered, "I know he's not fair to you." But even Lily had learned not to poke the bear. Don't question Gerald. Don't challenge the family order. And never, ever ask for something he didn't want to give. Harper used to believe that if she worked hard enough, outran every expectation, she might finally earn that look, the one Brandon got effortlessly. But every win was rebranded as rebellion. Every success was a threat. No praise. Only, why didn't you tell the family first? In this household, love wasn't unconditional. It was transaction-based. And Harper? She was never playing by their rules, because those rules were never made for her. Sometimes the deepest pain doesn't come from failure. It comes from success that's never acknowledged. Harper used to believe, if she got successful enough, loud enough, big enough, he couldn't ignore her forever. She did everything right, and then some. Graduated top of her class at UCLA, turned down a position at her father's company to make her own way, climbed the ladder in New York, clawing her way into the boardroom at one of Wall Street's most competitive firms. At 32, she became the youngest ever senior investment strategist. She remembered the day she got the promotion. Her managing director raised a toast in front of the whole team and called her a walking asset. News of her promotion hit the industry wires within hours. And Gerald Ellis? One text. "Well, guess they're okay taking risks these days. No, proud of you. No, congratulations." Just a perfectly crafted insult in disguise, like her entire career was a fluke, not the result of blood, sweat, and boardroom battles. The last time she visited Austin, he asked, "Finance? What's tangible about that? You ever build anything? A tower? A freeway?" Then turned to Brandon. "Son, that new Houston site, that's legacy." Harper sat there swirling her wine, smiling politely like his words didn't hit bone. But they did. They always had. Because with Gerald Ellis, her success wasn't just invisible. It was inconvenient. It didn't fit the narrative he built his empire on, that his son would inherit the crown, and his daughter would simply know her place. Sometimes a gift isn't a gift. It's a final attempt to buy the love we were never given. The car wasn't about luxury. It was about one last chance. Harper spent nearly a year's salary on the sleek black Mercedes S-Class, tan leather interior, night vision assist, the exact model her father once praised when visiting a colleague's house. She had it delivered to an Austin dealership and scheduled the reveal for Friday, one day before the family reunion. It was strategic. Private, just her and him. She wasn't buying a car. She was buying a moment. A moment where maybe, just maybe, Gerald Ellis would look at her and finally see. My daughter made it. That afternoon, Harper wore a crisp white blouse and a cream blazer. When Gerald opened the door, he glanced at his watch like she was early for an appointment. Harper, the party's tomorrow. I know, but it's Father's Day, and I wanted to give this to you in private. She placed the small box in his hand. The Mercedes logo shimmered under the porch light. He opened it. His eyes paused for half a second, then narrowed. Is this a joke? No, she said. It's parked out front. You should see it. He stepped outside, skeptical. When he saw the car, his dream specs, his favorite color, something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Maybe pride. But it faded fast. Nice car, he said flatly. A little flashy, don't you think? Then he walked around it, the way he'd inspect a new property, asking about insurance, taxes, maintenance costs. Not one thank you, not one smile. After a short test drive, he didn't leave it on display. He parked it in the garage, closed the door. You must be doing really well if you can afford to throw money around like this. Every word chipped away at what she had hoped to build. Harper managed a thin smile. Not because she was okay, but because in that moment, she finally saw it clearly. There was no car, no title, no success grand enough to earn the approval of a man emotionally incapable of giving it. She never understood why his love felt like a locked door until the DNA test handed her the key to 32 years of silence. It started out as a fun curiosity, a genetic ancestry test, the kind everyone does for fun. Spit in a tube, track your roots, maybe find a Viking somewhere in the family tree. Harper wasn't expecting a bombshell, but when the report loaded, her screen might as well have cracked in half. The paternal markers didn't match. Not even close. Gerald Ellis wasn't her biological father. She checked again and again, then sent off hair from Gerald's old comb, collected discreetly during her last trip home. The second test came back. Confirmed. She sat on the floor for almost an hour. Envelope sealed, phone silent, no tears, no screaming, just stillness. Because suddenly it all made sense. The way Gerald beamed at Brandon, but stared through her like glass. The way he celebrated Lily's promotions, but treated her own like a nuisance. The way he called Brandon my legacy and called her just Harper. She remembered when she won a national scholarship at 15. Gerald's only comment? Don't let it go to your head. She used to think he was just tough. Hard to impress. Now she realized he never intended to love her because he always knew. She wasn't his daughter, not by blood, and maybe, in his mind, not by right. When he called her a failure in front of everyone, she finally decided she didn't need his name, his pride, or his permission to exist. June. The Ellis family's annual dinner, a grand performance dressed up as tradition. Everyone played their part. Brandon, the golden heir. Lily, the gentle peacemaker. Diane, the polished hostess. And Harper, the invisible daughter seated farthest from the head of the table. But this time, Harper had brought something new, an envelope that could burn it all down. Gerald stood for his signature toast. I'm proud of my children, all except the loser sitting at this table. Silence. Knives froze mid-cut, glasses clinked by accident. Diane went pale, Lily's eyes widened, and Harper stood up. No tremble, no tears. Her voice steady as steel. Thank you for confirming what I've felt my whole life. Because I was never your daughter to begin with. She placed the envelope at the center of the table. The slap of paper on wood sounded louder than it should have. This is the truth. No drama. No denial. You don't get to call me a failure when you were never my father. No one moved. Gerald's face drained of color. Brandon looked like he might explode. Diane covered her mouth, shaking. Harper turned and walked out, through the grand dining room that now looked more like a burning stage than a home. Outside, the Mercedes still waited, the same car she thought would earn her love. Now, just transportation to freedom. She slid behind the wheel, started the engine, and for the first time in her life, left a family dinner without carrying the weight of being unwanted. After the truth explodes, the real test isn't who screams loudest, it's who still picks up the phone. Harper had barely made it out of the Ellis estate, hands steady on the wheel, but heart pounding with aftershock. She checked into a boutique hotel near the Colorado River, still wearing her dinner dress, heels in one hand, phone in the other. By the time she got to her room, the damage had gone digital. 17 missed calls. From Brandon. From her mother. From the house line. From her father's attorney. Text from Brandon, "You blew up this family. Get ready for the consequences." From her mother, "Please, Harper, don't make this worse. I need time. This is too much for me." Harper stared at the screen. Said nothing. Typed nothing. Then another name popped up. Lily. She hesitated. Then answered. "Harper? It's me. I'm upstairs, in my room. The house is insane right now. Mom's locked herself in, Dad's screaming downstairs, Brandon's on the phone with a lawyer, and me. I needed to know if you're okay." Silence. "Then I'm okay," Harper said quietly. "Or at least, I'm free. Lily, I didn't do this to blow things up. I just couldn't keep disappearing in that house anymore." Lily sniffled, then said with clarity, "You were never invisible to me. Ever. And I'm proud of you, Harper. You said what none of us had the courage to say. In the chaos, one person still cared enough to ask if she was okay. And sometimes, that's all it takes to keep moving forward." She always said, "I love you," but she never said the truth. They sat across from each other in a quiet cafe, exposed brick, soft lighting, as if the world understood this conversation needed gentleness. Diane Ellis, once the picture-perfect Southern matriarch, now looked fragile in a simple gray cardigan. No pearls, no makeup. And for the first time, Harper saw her not as a figurehead, but as a woman. "I never meant for you to find out this way," Diane said softly. "But maybe you should have known a long time ago." Harper didn't respond. She didn't need a story. She needed truth. His name was Daniel Reese. We met in California, senior year. I loved him, really loved him, but he wasn't what my family wanted. When I found out I was pregnant, I almost left. Then Gerald stepped in. She paused. He offered marriage, and in return, he got status, and I kept my reputation. Harper's voice was low, sharp, and I was the bargaining chip. Diane shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. "No, you were my world, Harper. I just wasn't strong enough. I thought Gerald would grow to love you, but every time he looked at you, all he saw was him." And I stayed silent. Harper didn't cry, but something inside her cracked, not from the lie, from the fact that the silence lasted 32 years. It took her a lifetime to realize who wasn't her father, and only one quiet coffee to feel who truly was. Harper sent the email. No desperation, no accusations, just a brief message, who she was, what she'd learned, and a gentle offer to talk, if he ever felt ready. Daniel Reese replied 2 days later. "I'm stunned, to be honest, but I'm not angry. I always wondered what happened to her, your mother. If you'd like to talk, I'll be in Manhattan next week for a tech summit. Maybe we could get coffee, if that feels okay to you." She said yes. They met at a small cafe near Central Park. Quiet, neutral, unassuming. He arrived right on time, blue button-down, charcoal sweater, calm but present. And as soon as he walked in, she knew it was him. Not because he looked familiar, but because she saw herself in the way he scanned the room. Focused, cautious, but open. "I'm Harper," she said, rising from her seat. He smiled. "I figured." They talked for nearly 2 hours. No tears, no drama. He told her about his life in San Diego, his engineering firm, his twin teenage sons. And then he said, "You don't have to call me Dad, but if you'd like, maybe we could get to know each other." Harper blinked fast, then smiled. "Well, how about coffee number 2 next week?" Healing isn't forgetting. It's finally living a life no longer dictated by the wounds. Harper started therapy in the second week after that dinner. Not because she was broken, but because for the first time in her life, she realized she was allowed to rest. In those quiet sessions, she said things out loud she'd carried for 30 years. The shame of always being almost enough. The exhaustion of chasing praise. The loneliness of winning when no one cared she won. She learned one truth that changed everything. Worth isn't something you earn. It's something you claim. She sold the Mercedes, the car that once symbolized hope for approval, and used the money to seed a private investment fund. Her dream, a financial mentorship platform for young women breaking into the industry. With her mother, forgiveness didn't come overnight, but honesty did. No more pretending, no more roles. They started over, 2 women choosing truth over performance. With Lily, the bond deepened. Late-night calls, random check-ins, a sisterhood that asked for nothing but gave everything. And with herself, Harper stopped proving. She started living, not for applause, but for strength, for peace, for purpose. She once thought her worth was something to be earned. Now she knows it was never something she needed permission for. That Thanksgiving, Harper didn't return to the Ellis estate. Instead, she went to Lily's house. No grand staircase, no head of table toasts, just real people, real warmth, real family. Her mother came too, not in designer heels, but holding a homemade apple pie. It was the first thing she'd baked in over a decade. They didn't say much that night, but everything they said was honest. At one point, Harper set her fork down as laughter rose from the kitchen, Lily and her kids playing with flour. And for the first time in a long time, peace settled in. No tension, no waiting for approval, just presence. And the freedom to simply be. Later, she stepped onto the balcony. City lights blinked in the distance. Her phone buzzed, a text from Daniel, the man who gave her half of her DNA, and now, quietly, a chance to start something real. Thinking of you today, grateful to know you exist. Harper smiled. She didn't need to reply right away, because something had shifted. She no longer needed a name to validate her story. She had rewritten it herself, and that was more than enough. Never beg for a seat at a table where no one sees your worth. There was a time Harper thought power meant being the best, doing more, outperforming the silence. But now, she knows real power is walking away from places that made you forget you were already enough. She didn't make a scene, didn't drag the past behind her like chains. She posted just one line, no hashtags, no fanfare, just white text on black. A message to herself. And to anyone else who's ever felt like a ghost at someone else's dinner. Sometimes, taking back your power means walking away from the table where you were never truly invited. Harper Ellis. No more pain, just clarity, and a life chosen on her own terms.